Hello, 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 my fellow otaku brethren. How goes it? The release of Death Stranding 2 on the beach is coming. Only a month away. And we'll finally get the chance to dive into another Kojima masterpiece. Now you might be wondering, why am I calling Death Stranding 2 a masterpiece when I haven't even played it yet? It's not even out yet. Why am I already calling this game a masterpiece? I mean, I've seen a couple of trailers, but that's not enough, right? Correct. That is not enough to know for certain that Death Stranding 2 is going to be a masterpiece. And yet, I'm confident it will be. And that's because it's being directed by Hideo Kojima, my favorite game director of all time. And he never misses. He never misses. Kojima never misses. Plain and simple. Now, okay, Phantom Pain, to be fair, was a bit of an incomplete game. Well, more than a bit. It was very incomplete. But I cast that blame squarely on Konami. So we're just going to leave it at that, because that game's development was cut short, and it clearly wasn't given enough time to bake in the oven before it was released. And it still ended up being a really cool game, regardless of its flaws. But when you give my boy Kojima the budget and the time to cook, the man cooks. And Sony has done that. First with the original Death Stranding, which I thought was a masterpiece. An extraordinarily polished game for something that had never been done before. For a game that had never been done before. Totally new type of game. Never been done. But it was extremely polished, extremely ambitious, and filled with all kinds of unique and original ideas and sci-fi themes that I've never seen before. That's just what Kojima brings to the table. Even when he was, stuck doing the Metal Gear series a lot longer than he ever intended to, he still managed to continually surprise me again and again with each new Metal Gear game. He used that franchise to explore all kinds of interesting themes and ideas and game mechanics, and yeah, the guy is a genius. He just, there's no other game director out there like Kojima. Hey, Death Stranding 2 is on the way. This is a good time for me to talk about my own experiences with the guy's work and why he's one of my favorite game directors of all time. He really has, expanded my mind, expanded my outlook on the world. How I see the world changed the first time I played a Kojima game. And that was Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, which, is considered by many Metal Gear fans to be the bad one. They're wrong. It is not the bad one, because there are no bad Metal Gear games. Well, unless you count Metal Gear Survive, but we don't count that, because that's not a real Metal Gear game. That's just a piece of crap with the Metal Gear brand stuck on top of it. But anyway, I digress. Yes, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. I oftentimes call that my favorite, not only my favorite Metal Gear game in some respects, in many respects really, but probably one of my favorite games of all time, period. And I'm going to explain why. Because while I do think Snake Eater, which is very justifiably getting a remake, because it's really fucking good. Snake Eater, in a lot of ways, objectively might be the best Metal Gear game. It's certainly the most well-rounded. It has the most gameplay to offer, it has the best bosses, it has a really good standalone story that doesn't really need the other Metal Gear games to make as much sense. It kind of stands on its own. It's just an excellent spy adventure with really great characters and all of that. But as great as Snake Eater is, and it is a masterpiece in its own right, Sons of Liberty, the reason that game resonates with me so strongly, and why I feel so strongly about it, why it made me such a huge Kojima fan, as guys like me, who, yes, I've always loved Metal Gear, I've always loved the lore and the universe of Metal Gear, don't get me wrong, but I only loved it as much as I did because of the ideas and creativity that Kojima put into it. It was his baby, it was his creative work. And a lot of what made Metal Gear so different from other military-style games really was him. It was his ideas. It was his imagination. So, Sons of Liberty in particular out of all the Metal Gear games I've ever played, might be the most Kojima game ever, just because it's a game all about ideas. It's constantly surprising me and pulling the rug out from under me and subverting my expectations over and over again. Like, you know, it was wild going into that game just expecting like some Mission Impossible style, you know, just typical spy stuff. And it ended up being so engrossing. Like, I've never ever seen anything like it before. And it was the first time I had ever played a video game where, like, it genuinely made me think. It genuinely made me think about stuff that I never knew anything about before. Philosophy, existentialism, postmodernism, politics, all these different things that I just never thought about before. You know, I was a kid, so it was like, it blew my mind. It just, like, changed the way I looked at the world, and it expanded my intelligence. Like, I know that sounds hyperbolic as fuck. It's like, wow, this guy really loves Kojima. But I swear to God, I'm not shitting you, that game was so, like, ahead of its time, and it just did so many things with its storytelling that no other video games were doing at the time, that it kind of expanded my intelligence. It made me smarter. That's how good Metal Gear Solid 2 was. That completely blew me away. Blew my expectations away. Every time I thought I knew what was going to happen next, or where things were going to go, or what type of game I was playing, oh shit, there's a vampire now. Oh shit, there's a girl that just cannot be hit by bullets. She's like a witch. What the hell is going on? All sorts of crazy shit. And then it's like, oh, this guy is possessed by his arm. Some dude named Liquid is taking over his soul. Like, what the hell? What is this? Yeah. And I wasn't saying all that out of frustration. I was fascinated. I was enthralled. I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but I want to know more. I want to know more about this. And I wouldn't have gone back and played the original after Metal Gear Solid 2 if that game didn't have such a huge impact on me. I went back, played the first one, loved that one. Snake Eater came out a couple years later, played that one, loved it. Loved Guns of the Patriots, loved 5 even with all the flaws that had. I love Metal Gear. You know, I just wanted more Kojima. I wanted more of this guy's ideas. I wanted more of his crazy characters and crazy writing and, you know, well, I say crazy as though he's a crazy person, as if it makes no sense. That's a bit off. What I mean is crazy awesome. Like, I just love... He gets a lot of flack. Kojima gets a lot of criticism. A lot of people say his games are overwritten, that he needs an editor. He needs to edit his stories more because there's just too much dialogue. Cutscenes are too long. As much as I love Kojima and as much as I love his games, even I can admit, as big a fan as I am, yes, his games can be very wordy. The dialogue can be very long-winded. There are definitely times, especially with, like, Guns of the Patriots, I remember the cutscenes being way longer than they needed to be. I remember, like, some of the dialogue and stuff just being like, yeah, you could cut to the chase a little bit more. Like, make no mistake, I don't disagree with that criticism. That's a fair criticism. A lot of his games could use a little more, like, you know, trimming down when it comes to dialogue and stuff. But here's the thing. Here's the reason why I still defend the man anyway. Because, yeah, his dialogue could be bloated, long-winded, whatever. Here's the thing. I love his writing. I love his dialogue. I love his characters and the way they interact. I love even when they're long-winded. And I can see how other people would get frustrated. But I'm sitting there and I'm just, like, enthralled. Because I'm like, nobody else is going to make a game like this. Nobody else is going to have dialogue like this. Yeah, that just goes on like this and is so fascinating and so weird. Because it's not like his dialogue is boring. I mean, some people might find it boring. But even though you could call it long-winded, even though you could say, wow, this sure goes on a while, I'm never bored. Because his writing is so out there, and he plays with so many concepts and ideas. And the characters are always well-rounded, even if they do talk a lot. And even if... you know, cutscenes tend to be a bit excessive, but I'm never bored. It's just like, he puts so much passion in his games, and, you know, I'm all about that. He puts so much of what he loves in his games and in these characters. You know, there's lots Obviously, Kojima's a big movie fan, no secret. He's a big cinephile. I myself am a big movie fan and a big cinephile. As much as I love video games, I'm just as big a movie fan and an anime fan and all of that. And guess who is also a big movie fan and big anime fan? Kojima. He loves that stuff just as much as he loves games. And yeah, his games are always loaded with lots of cool references to films, sometimes very old classic films. Whether it's 007, I mean, Snake Eater, obviously that whole opening theme is such a love letter to 007. But there's also like Mission Impossible references in that game. There's references to like The Great Escape and all this other stuff. Like, he puts so much nerdy like lore in his games, like so many nerdy references and stuff, and that's what I love about the guy. So it's like, even when you could argue like, boy, that's a lot of stuff, he sure does put a lot of stuff in his games. Oh, that's paramedics talking about movies now? Don't they have a mission to do? Why is she talking about movies? Oh, she's talking about Godzilla? Really? When you're supposed to be on a mission? It's like, I don't care personally. I love that stuff. I love that when you call people on Kodak or whatever, they're giving you like movie lore and shit, saying like, have you ever seen Godzilla? Hey Snake, have you ever seen Dracula? It's like, because that's the charm of Kojima's games. It's like, yeah, he puts all these nerdy references and all this passion he has for entertainment in his game. About it, say what you want about his editing or his dialogue, that it could use trimming or whatever, but one criticism I do not agree with is when people say, oh, he's a kiss ass, he kisses up to Hollywood, he kisses up to movie actors and all this and all that. Not true. There's too much passion behind what this guy does to put that spin on it, where it's like, nah, he's in it for the money, look at that, he put Monster Energy in there, and he's got the Walking Dead guy in there, and oh, he threw away David Hayter for this 24 guy, and it's like, whatever his name was, Keither Baker, or shit, I forget his name. Anyway, you get the point. A lot of people think Kojima's a sellout. They call him a sellout. They say, oh, he just likes movies. He just wants to kiss up to movies and put directors in his games and stuff. And here's the thing. Everything Kojima does, even putting famous celebrities in his games now and all that shit, he does it because he is that big of a movie nerd. Because he is that big of an entertainment junkie. He just loves that stuff. He wants to be involved with these people and these actors and these other filmmakers. And he's best friends with Guillermo del Toro, which, if you ever see him in an interview with Guillermo del Toro, you know, the Pan's Labyrinth director guy, Hellboy director guy, they're like best friends. He's like, that's another guy that's just a passionate nerd. You know, he's a filmmaker, but he's just like Kojima. They get along great because, you know, they're both nerds and they both love the same shit. And it's great because they were gonna work together originally on Silent Hills before that was canceled by Konami. And it's like, if you just see them in an interview, you see them interact with each other, talk about the figures they collect and shit, and they go to each other's homes, and he's like, oh, he has this figure that I really want, and one of these days he's gonna give it to me. Just seeing those two interact, it's like, no, these guys just love what they do. They're super passionate. They're just passionate creators. So whenever I hear that, like, oh, Kojima's a sellout, he just likes showbiz, he's in it for the money, oh, he just likes these actors, and no. This man does not have a sellout cell in his body. No fucking way. You can't do my boy Kojima like that. No. And Death Stranding might be one of the most surprising and refreshing Kojima games I've played since, like, Metal Gear Solid 2 or 3. I'm very excited to see what Death Stranding 2 does, because he's really good at making sequels, and the original Death Stranding was already a really, really solid, well put together game that was experimenting with gameplay that nobody's ever done before. So now I'm thinking Death Stranding 2 is probably going to be so much more wild when it comes to ideas, because they've already had a chance to test out everything with the first game. You know, they were trying something new, so the original Death Stranding, even though I thought it was really good, there's a lot of stuff they could do better. There's a lot of stuff they could evolve. and a lot of stuff they could build on top of. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh, they're going to do so much. There's going to be so much new cool shit in this game. Just thinking about how he's going to use the DualSense controller for all of that, like, you know, hiking and walking around and stumbling down rocks and shit that you're going to be doing. I'm very excited. I know Death Stranding 1 was very polarizing. It did not light a fire for everybody, but man, that was my favorite game of 2019. It was the best game I played that year, and that was a great year for video games. Resident Evil 2 Remake came out that year. Sekiro came out that year. Some truly astonishing games came out that year, and Death Stranding was still my favorite. It was the most refreshing and surprising thing I played that year. So, yeah, it goes without saying that it's very rare that I can do this, that I can say this, but I think Death Stranding 2 is almost guaranteed to be my favorite game of 2025, and we're only halfway through the year. So that's saying a lot, especially since it already looks like it's going to be a very good year for video games, with a lot of good stuff coming out, and some really good stuff has already come out. So, you know, when I say I'm confident in Kojima when it comes to his quality and what he puts out, I'm really fucking confident, because yeah, he just makes such good games, man. Such good game. Were you disappointed with Death Stranding? Do you think he went off the rails with that, or do you love it like I did? Let me know in the comments. Are you excited for Death Stranding 2? I want to hear all about it. But until next time, you get to burning and live for the passion.